I would be down for you talking to more interesting people than us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that guys, no, that can't be too hard. Okay, so this is we are here. This is the last one. This is episode 10. This is it. This is the end.
There's only 10 episodes.
Oh yeah, there's only 10 episodes.
It's okay.
Chapters.
If you wanted
But
more,
I
that's
think there's
just
13 chapters.
there
aren't
are. We double dipped.
Oh, yeah, we did.
I know you're an avid listener.
Does the preface count as a chapter?
Welcome to episode 10, which is chapter 13 for those of you keeping score of what's the book called again?
A Hitchhiker's Guide to Leaf Level Gas Exchange.
Right. Yes. So that was the voice of the R&D's fearless leader,
Jason Hupp.
whose name
You
is.
were waiting for me to say my own
This
name.
is
I thought
why
you were introducing me.
I
and-
don't have my notes. This is what happens.
I was waiting for him to say his name in great anticipation.
You can answer for him.
Oh, that would have been a weird context because you said that's the voice of. And if a different voice chimed in to say his name,
That would almost make more sense.
That's fair. Should a
but
different
we could
voice
introduce each other.
Oh, we
Oh,
could.
that'd be adorable. Okay. I am here today with
Jason Hupp, director of some science and stuff at LI-COR.
and
I feel like that's not actually my title, but thank you, Richard Vath, field application scientist. Did I get your title right? Okay, good.
nailed it. So today's episode is titled, is it Into the Multiverse?
I think that's what we called it.
I think that's what it is. But I prefer to call it like the garage sale of future ideas. I think that's more apt for our group.
We tried to work sundry into the title because it's just sort of a random collection of everything. And then we were inspired by a bunch of Marvel movies, and so it became a multiverse.
I like it because we are looking at just so many different dimensions to gas exchange and accessory type of topics. Accessories may be a little too harsh for someone who likes the aquatic chamber as much as one of us does.
I am mildly offended by that.
But there's a lot of different things to cover, and I don't want to cover them here because I'm tired. And I think it would be a lot more entertaining to read in general.
Are you tired because, unbeknownst to the audience, there was a large pause in your recording of these episodes because a new human being came into your life?
That's part of it. That's part of it. And that's all of it. So we're gonna breeze through this. And what I've asked both Dr. Vath and Mr. Hupp. It's the last one. I have nothing to lose. What I've asked both of them to do is kind of choose maybe their favorite topic from this last chapter, or at least a topic from this last chapter to discuss a little bit more in depth.
I mean, I love talking about the Chamber Aquatic. It's not my favorite part of the chapter, but I'll let Richard go first, and I'll just pick whatever he doesn't pick.
This is another reason I'm so tired of these guys. So,
Indecision.
indecisive preface?
We're just constantly plagued by it.
Yes.
That's why you hate this.
It's because we're scientists.
This is true.
Yeah.
Well, some scientists can make decisions,
I'm not a scientist.
and they just revise them later if they're presented with contrasting information.
That feels like not making a decision.
No, I mean, you decide at one point, and then you change your decision later.
This is
That's
great
different
radio.
from just sitting there staring at each other, not doing anything.
Fair.
Don't tell people what I do for a living. So, well, I know, Jason, while you love Chamber Aquatic, you also mentioned to me earlier one of your favorite sections of the book. And why don't you just dive into this topic for us?
Yeah, it's my favorite section of the chapter, probably. But only because it was an excuse to do things that I've wanted to do for a long time and never had a reason to put to paper. We talk a lot in the beginning of the chapter about sort of gas exchange measurements on three-dimensional objects like branches, shoots, something with lots of little leaves around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think about light and how light changes over distance and how light varies within the chamber. And there's some really, what I think are really fun analyses looking at sort of modeling light gradients across a conifer branch in a chamber, and then we go do measurements. Doug did some measurements a long time ago that we pulled into this using illumination from one side of a branch entirely, or splitting the illumination across the branch and looking at how the physiological parameters differ, even though in theory we're providing the same amount of light to the branch in each scenario.
So you didn't collect any of that data? That was all?
That was Doug collecting
all
that data.
Doug.
I did the modeling, though.
Listen,
He's a good delegator.
Yeah.
That's why he's a director.
That's why he's a director.
He directs people to do things for him.
Well, we have to give a shout out to Doug, because Doug is one of the only people that has actually had a comment, like, from a quote unquote fan.
Oof.
Right? Spotify, there was a comment from a fan that is directed at Doug. He's the only one. So sorry, gentlemen.
What is this comment?
Listen, I can't go into that. That's not what we're doing here right now. We're talking about all of your favorite things.
Oh,
Not all of Doug's favorite things.
I see.
Yeah. So three-dimensional objects, right? Branches. There's a lot of talk about boundary layer components here.
We love boundary layer.
We do.
It's all hand wavy talk in this chapter, because how do you really know what the boundary layer on a branch is?
Well, how does that conversation start then? Like,
Why
the
is
boundary
it-
layer is so hand wavy in this chapter.
Oh, well, we show measurements of boundary layer in some earlier chapters on planar samples, and we talk through models of boundary layers that are used to approximate them on planar samples.
Mm-hmm.
They make a bunch of assumptions about, laminar flow and at a certain angle of incidence relative to the surface, and these things aren't planes. And even if you start with laminar flow and you blow it across a branch, it doesn't stay laminar for long, right? Because there's stuff sticking in all directions and all different ways. And, somebody well-schooled in computational fluid dynamics could build models that can approximate these things and get you somewhere. We have folks in engineering that do that during development of things where flow around the surfaces really matters.
Sure.
But you're probably not going to do that for like a spruce branch. And you're
Well-
probably not going to do it for every spruce branch that you want to go measure.
Yeah.
And so we just have to live with the fact that boundary layer is very hand wavy in these situations.
Okay.
And accept from everything that we've learned in previous chapters what the uncertainty of that hand waviness does to our data.
Yeah.
Did you want to add something, Richard?
No, I was just clear. Recreation.
Richard was trying to be very polite to cause a bit of a scene.
Mm.
What's your thought on boundary layers?
So that section, though, is you stole my favorite from that chapter. If I was going to choose
I
one in the last 3
Tried
minutes,
to have you
Oh.
go
I had to make a
first, but
favorite.
our adoring host here,
Well, he was the host. He drives the
that's true. Even though he
metaphorical
doesn't have
vehicle
notes
that
this
we were all
time.
sitting
I'm
in.
just going to delete everything you said and we'll listen to Richard.
No, I only
That's
have an
probably
addendum
smart.
to it at this point.
Oh.
No, I just appreciate that both the discussion of light, because we talked about this in an earlier episode, I'm fairly sure, but I meet with people constantly that are growing some plants in a little growth chamber, and then they say what their leaves are exposed to based on what their light source puts out, and then they don't know anything about the inverse square law, and then we go measure the light intensity at their leaf surface that's like 2 feet away from their light source, and it's way lower than what they thought it was, and it just changes a lot of things in their experiment, and I appreciate that. And also within the chamber, like, it's amazing, like the several hundred ppfd difference you can have over the course of a few centimeters inside of a chamber because of this, right? And so think about complex leaves in there, and calculations of boundary layer conductance and light gradients, and then just temperature gradients are also common, right? And it has to interact with both of those, light and boundary layer conductance. Some chicken and egg situations there. But also there's mention of like leaves in the chamber that are moving around because they're not completely filling the chamber.
Yeah.
And they're like not super structurally strong like a conifer needle might be. And think about like, well, there's potentially some measurement implications for that, right? Because again, boundary layer conductance is really hard to calculate when you've got something just flopping around, and it's clearly a changing boundary layer constantly. But also there are literal like physiological effects to that existence in the chamber, right? So one thing we say is that it might take longer to reach steady state, or maybe we won't reach steady state.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of leaves in chambers that are pretty flexible and are probably flying around in there, and then they're intermittently contacting the thermocouple at times, and so you're going to get noisier temperature data. So even if it's a two-dimensional leaf in the chamber, then you might have a hard time calculating stomatical conductance if that's the case. And, yeah, I think we do a good job of laying out those considerations in this chapter, and it's useful because a lot of people, we put this at the end of the chapter as it seems like a little bit of a like, well, here's all these things we couldn't quite cover, but we'll cover in a future edition maybe.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Oh,
But it's not actually, it's like, it is sort of a preparation for a future edition, but also like maybe the majority of people use two-dimensional leaves in the chamber, but a lot of people want to do something other than the simple two-dimensional structures.
yeah.
For sure.
Even if you just have a heavily serrated leaf or something like that in a chamber that doesn't fill up, like there's things in here that are useful for you to consider.
Awesome.
Which means you have to read the whole book, not just
All
the
of it.
first chapters.
I think we said that in the very beginning. We probably reiterated at the very end too,
What?
that you got to read the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. I think we say that in almost every chapter.
Dear reader, don't trust everything Jason says.
Yeah. If you're still listening, you wasted your time. Actually, none of this has to do with the chapter. So we covered boundary layer, covered three-dimensional. Richard, you went into some leaf temperature. One of my favorite images from this particular chapter is, I believe someone is scuba diving with their 6800, which I would not recommend. Please do not do
Yeah.
that. But that leads into kind of this chamber aquatic content. That's a lot of the chapter. And maybe, Jason, you can go into why there's a lot of space dedicated. And this isn't a play
Oh.
on your obsession, but there,
I mean, because
it's a pretty spectacular measurement.
That's right. That's why there's so much space dedicated, because it's amazing. Seaton doesn't look convinced.
I'm not going to edit out that awkward silence. Gonna leave it.
I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. You know, a few years ago, we launched the aquatic chamber for the 6800. I call it my pandemic project because that's what I did over COVID, was work on validating the aquatic chamber and the methodology. And it's pretty unique.
Mm-hmm.
There's not another sort of open flow through steady state CO2 measurement in solution that exists. There have been attempts at various gas exchange by measuring CO2 from aqueous samples published in the literature over the years, and varying degrees of not very successful.
Why?
It's complicated. Carbon dioxide and air is simple. Carbon dioxide and water is complicated. There's not one endpoint that you have to think about. We like to pretend that we don't work under very alkaline conditions, so we think about 3 different endpoints, but in reality there's 4 that make up the total inorganic carbon system. So we go into detail of that. We talk about the chamber design, some of the things that we did to minimize uncertainties in the measurement.
Mm-hmm.
And then we spend a lot of time talking about light. We actually take sort of those Beer's Law models that we've been using throughout the book, right? To describe gas analyzers, to describe light absorption by the leaf, to describe how light behaves in canopies, to describe how light behaves at the branch scale, to how do we get like a mean light intensity in an algal suspension?
Yeah.
So circling back to the same old physics, it's great.
That was
I
so
think they call
beautifully-
them first principles for a reason.
I'm gonna let that one ride too.
You're
That was
probably
great.
going to edit it out.
No, not at all. I live for the awkwardness.
No, I think
There-
that's
I like
it.
it.
Okay, there was the one episode where I started
bleep sound over
by
it.
saying the wrong book. I just said that you both wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and Doug is like, "That's not correct." And I use that as the intro. Okay.
Well, we go into measuring gases from other plants, which includes aquatic-ish plants, although the measurements themselves are not aquatic.
I think rich means other gases from plants,
Yeah. I don't know what I said, but...
not gases of other plants. There's a difference.
Oh, yes, other
Yeah.
gases of plants. And gases of other plants.
We do,
As
yeah.
opposed to algae in suspension. It's a
Yeah.
gas from...
So here's what's amazing for
Some
the
beautiful
listener.
thing.
This is usually where people would edit things out. I'm gonna leave it because
Let
that's
it
how
ride.
That's
It's the
how
17th rule in podcasting.
That's this is how it works here. So, Rich, what do you mean by gases of and from plants?
Yeah, we talk about measuring things other than CO2. So you need some other analyzer to do this, but there are some considerations. Usually the quantity of those other gases exchanged, like say methane or N2O or things like that from leaves, are quite a lot lower than the relative exchange of CO2 going into and out of a chamber.
Right.
So you usually need a higher precision analyzer, maybe longer averaging times. And so we talk about those considerations. There's another beautiful illustration from Jason of some wetland plants and some data from one of those plants that gives some methane exchange data.
Before you go into that a little bit more, why would someone? What's the interest in these other gases? Like, why would someone be interested in investigating?
Well, in theory, they're more potent. Not in theory, they're more potent greenhouse gas, more potent heat trappers. Is that the right term? Contributors to. They are more potent trappers of energy within the atmosphere. Thus, the exchange of those over different scales, including from the leaf or the trunk scale, for example, are of interest to understanding how things like land use change are affecting the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and how that affects global change. And yeah, so
it's not just that's a thing, but it's a thing that we know virtually nothing about.
that's a fair point too.
We've done a lot of sort of ecosystem scale measurements of methane fluxes. We've done chamber-based measurements at larger scales of soil and sort of whole plants. And there's evidence that suggests plants do interesting things with these gases. Passive transport through parenchyma throughout the plant. It could be something where gases get dissolved into the transpiration stream. There could be microbes
processes within plants or on surfaces of plants.
Due to microbial activity. But the thing that we don't have are leaf level measurements of these greenhouse gases. Because they're hard, as Rich said, like the fluxes are tiny and you need very high precision analyzers to measure it. We give an example where we actually measured leaf level methane flux on a wetland plant. Alyssima?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was? I should know what it was. It grows in my bog garden at home. And to give Doug some additional credit, though he didn't make these measurements in isolation, we spent an entire day one summer sitting in my house making these measurements. It was great. It's like 75 degrees and sunny, and we had a 6800. We tried to use my garage as a buffer volume for methane, and it turns out that does not work very well in the city. There's a lot of variation in methane in my garage. My garage isn't heated by natural gas or anything, so it's got to be coming in from outside. And so in the end, we wheeled these big VOC-free tanks into my backyard and strapped them to a tree and connected them to a 6800. Yeah, it was a fabulous time.
Oh, to work at LI-COR.
This is how science gets done, Seton. Yeah.
I want to know.
They probably explored Beer's law of a different nature as well.
I certainly hope so.
In the summer.
Certainly not during work hours.
Oh.
Just kidding. Cut that.
I think that's actually a pretty good segue. So there's a lot of things we haven't been able to measure just due to hardware, right? And the inherent sensitivity.
That's why we sat on these measurements for so long. I mean, this was years and years ago that we collected this data. It was sometime around when the 7810 first came out. But it's complicated to integrate it in a meaningful way with the 6800 or any gas exchange system. The stuff that we lay out in chapter 11 around isotopic methodologies for mesophyll conductance are sort of the same considerations that apply here. And so it felt like a nice opportunity to finally do something with this data because we had some technical material to support how you actually set it up to collect the data.
Right. Well, so you kind of touched on it, and I'm going to expand the idea. We've talked a lot about leaf level
Mm.
measurements and branch level, right?
Mhm.
There's so much utility and power in extrapolating from the leaf level to this landscape. And maybe,
For sure.
I feel like Richard's good at pontification, so maybe he wants to take this one.
Yeah, I think we finished this chapter off nicely and this book off nicely with a discussion of this moving into larger scales, because for one, we spent an entire book and 30, 40 years of making photosynthesis systems talking about leaf level measurements.
For sure.
And we've spent quite a few, maybe 30 years making like large scale measurements, but we've never done any work to connect the two necessarily, because that's what the researchers do.
Mm-hmm.
We're not starting to do that now, but we are just giving some brief overview of like, how do you go from one to the other, and what's the utility possibly of doing that? Some different models to how to approach or how to treat a canopy compared to a leaf, and different ways in which you can start to scale up your measurements to get some numbers of a big area from these nice constrained physiological measurements on a leaf level. Because that's different, of course, than if you just measure something over a large area and you get contributions of soil and plant, and that tells you one useful number.
Sure.
But trying to take responses to temperature from the leaf level to something like what's happening at a large scale is not so easy. And so there are some ways to start to approach these things, and those lower scale or smaller scale measurements inform these models to help you scale up and start to make estimates about how the world will respond to changing conditions.
Well said.
That's great.
Don't add anything to that, Jason.
I'm trying to refrain from doing so. Yeah,
If you
I don't
have
want to
something
ruin
to add.
Rich said such wonderful things. All I was going to add is, I don't even know what I was going to add. I like the end of that. I made an attempt to explain eddy covariance in a single illustration, and I probably failed, but I hope it actually helps readers.
I would have exercised my veto power if it would have been a complete failure.
Oh, that's fair.
He didn't read it.
Not that I'm like a trained micrometeorologist or anything like that.
Neither am I.
Trust us, the rest of the book is quite good.
What a farce.
No, I think it's good. There's a lot of work, especially now, I think, it's very easy to collect a lot of large landscape level data and understanding what that means. And I mean that in the sense of satellite imagery, drones and things, but really getting into the mechanistic response understanding, like that is difficult. And I think that still is in the realm of leaf level measurement.
For sure. I
Yeah.
would 100% agree.
Completely biased opinion. So let's go ahead and close this up. I don't want to give away too much from this chapter, and once again, I'm tired. Maybe other than read the book, what is one unique thing, and it doesn't have to be about this chapter, but the entire book. Maybe since this is the last chapter, what was your favorite part about writing this book?
I enjoyed a lot of it. I think, as I've said a few times as we talked about various aspects of it, I enjoyed that it gave me an opportunity to really sit down and think through some stuff that I've talked about for a long time, worked with sort of on the fringes, but never sort of went from an end-to-end derivation of. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I liked doing the cartoons. Cartoons are fun. Hopefully other people find them funny. That was kind of the idea, that this is a super boring topic and we want people to actually read it so they gain something from it. So you try to incentivize it with some humor. But it turns out that I'm a botanist and our sense of humor is maybe not the same as a normal person's.
No, don't say that.
I feel like you've said that phrase on every single episode.
I probably have. I'm a bit sarcastic. Rich, what about you? I know you didn't necessarily draw anything, but what was your favorite part about working on the book?
Yeah, well, it was a very challenging process at times, and
Co-author?
for anybody who's written something with me before, they know that I'm not the fastest at this writing activity. And so trying to make time in my schedule to do this work was challenging too. But that's not the fun part. No, the fun part, I think, was this collaborative effort when it became so collaborative, because Jason had a good start on this before I got involved. And so going through existing chapters and editing and working on that with him, and then working on the new material together, and those rounds of revision, like it's it's fun to work so closely with somebody on a large project for a long period of time.
Agreed.
Especially when you get on with them pretty well and
Mm-hmm.
you're not just arguing the entire time, healthy arguments. But
I don't remember any arguments.
sure.
You
This is
don't
when you
remember?
say-
That's the problem.
This is when you say,
Yeah.
no.
So that's my sentimental side. Is it was enjoyable and fun to collaborate and work with you, Jason.
I agree with
The
Richard.
personal, less sentimental side
I'm
is
Seton.
that. In case the voice thing in the beginning didn't confuse everybody
Yeah,
already. No, the personal, less sentimental side is that it has helped me, like the process of writing and revising this book has helped me be much better at my job and like helping people make these measurements, because like I have some finite knowledge in my head that I can transfer to people, and now it's much more than it was before I did all this. And again, to get sentimental again, I have Jason to thank for a lot of that, but
Aw.
it's good. And so my hope for all of this is that it helps other people make better measurements and have an easier time and see instruments less as black boxes, understand what's going into the measurements so that what comes out is more meaningful for everybody.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Let me wipe that tear from you, Jason.
I'm going to add that I didn't expect this to be a reference book, but I find that I reference it all the time now because I know that everything was written down that I need to use on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I love thinking in math and equations and doing that kind of stuff, but I can't keep strings of numbers and things straight. So I always have to go look them up. I don't even know my own social security number most of the time. It's very traumatic. Let's see what happens when I go to retire. But I reference it all the time as I'm doing stuff, which is surprising and good.
I think it's great. I think that it will be a good reference for a lot of users and something that is approachable. As
Mhm.
I remember when the first time I used a 6400 XT, there was a lot going on. I didn't know why or what was happening. Yeah, this would have been such a great tool for grad students, for postdocs, for faculty, and any other researchers who are getting into this work. So I appreciate and thank you both for putting it together and hopefully having it available here someday.
Soon?
All that to say, cut.
So much for your 20-minute episode.
Oh, it'll be lower. I'll tune you all out. So thank you both for coming here and for putting this book together. This is the final episode, so just thank you again for all of the hard work that you put into this, and I appreciate you setting time aside to meet with me here.
Thanks for all you've done.
Yeah, thanks for taking
This
time
has
to
been impressive.
talk about all of this with a variety of people that have interest or
Interesting things to say, hopefully.
I hope so too.
Well, that's a wrap. That's episode 10. That's all 13 chapters. We've covered them all, cover to cover. Okay, well, at least 13 chapters if you count the preface. Preface? Oh. And while we may not have any new episodes, please check out our webpage so you can sign up for any updates or future announcements. Because who knows, maybe someday there'll be an actual physical book. Who knows what the future will hold? Because it's in flux. Hello. As always, stay curious, stay kind, and hey, I don't know, maybe you'll hear from me soon.